activated their just in case. And we have many customers who've come to us, and a lot of the impetus behind Impala and Search is customers saying, I know I'm collecting all the right data. Now I can figure out how to open it up to my end user base. And that paradigm shift where I can have the data there, and now I can say, okay, let me define what this looks like, and now run a SQL query on top of that, can open up another level of flexibility that wasn't really achievable in the past.
Yeah, I think it's more about eliminating connectors than it is about necessarily just scale, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to have 100 analysts and each one is going to run a query on a petabyte of data, your cluster will be down within 10 seconds. So I don't think that's what's really about. I have one platform and I'm running a MapReduce job, and I want to be able to query, do interactive queries on the results of that MapReduce job, or the results of my running my classifier or something like that. I want to be able to query that data without using a connector. And I think we saw some of those slides earlier. I counted 3 connectors in one slide, and that's just not going to work. You can't be in the business of moving data between different systems, whether they're backed by that same HDFS or not. If you're having to move data into a different system, if I have to take an event log or a log file that was generated by my MapReduce job or my Hive query, and then go do insert into a relational system, it's just not going to work. You're introducing a lot of latency, a ton of complexity, you're losing the lineage of the data. I mean, there's so many problems that are going to happen as a result. And I think this whole movement for SQL on Hadoop is all about eliminating connectors and having one platform, which is kind of that store of record, and you do the different workloads on that data where it is.
Great. Coming back to the point where you started the discussion, was that the BI vendors have solved the problem of doing planned analytics very well, which means planned analysis of your business, planned analysis of how you're operating your refineries or whatever you have very well. What they have not done well is ad hoc analysis. A question which does not fall in the standard pattern is very hard to solve. And what people are looking for is to answer those tough questions if and when they arise. So what people are looking for is interactivity for ad hoc analysis.
Great. Prem, please.
I think I'd like to respond to Domer's point about the only reason you want to do SQL on Hadoop is because you want to eliminate connectors. I think that's a very narrow way to look at the problem, specifically because when you just narrow down or when you just dumb down the use cases that customers want to run on data, whether it's in Hadoop or elsewhere, to saying that it's a bunch of group eyes or a bunch of SQL relational algebra commands, you are essentially saying that if that's the only way to solve the problem, then you are doing injustice to the kind of analytics that customers are wanting. As an example, and this is happening in the community as well as outside the Hadoop platform. There are projects which are based on Google Spreadsheet, for example, graph function. And there are other vendors who are actually talking about doing dedicated graph analysis, processing multi-billion node graphs or multi-billion edge graphs. On the data. And this is not about saying, hey, I could do SQL on the Hadoop platform, therefore you better not move that multi-billion edge graph into a platform that can calculate the analysis.
That's fair. So you can't just say no connectors. Absolutely. Minimizing connectors is probably right.
Minimizing the movement of the data, yeah, absolutely. That's the right way to do it. But
okay. The next issue we wanted to touch on was SQL standards, and we already edged into that one. SQL standard compliance, whether we like it or not, it's not flashy, but it's important because of the ecosystem of people and tools. Right? What are the thoughts of the group of people on SQL standard compliance? How committed is your company to it? How much are you investing in just making the edges fit?
We have a simple answer. We are 100% anti-compliance. No package. We have the hog database with compliance with anti-compliance. So any statement we have, it should run on.
This is actually funny. I was prepared for this. I'm reading from the Green Phone user Sorry, you stepped on a little bit of the It is important to note that there is no commercial database systems that are fully compliant with the SQL standard. Greenfield database is almost fully compliant with the features from the SQL 2003 have also been implemented.
This one was asking about packages for in the 1990s.
But I'm more serious here, and I'm sorry.
Point aside, look, at the end of the day, the 92 standard is a good baseline to start from, right? What about Impala? How close is it to being
Our approach is, the goal of the standard is to make sure it works with all the BI tools and what you're trying to get out of that tool. When you look at the SQL standard, it's built to be all the different things that you can do with SQL. When you're trying to build an analytics engine, do you really care about having triggers on your engine? There's places where that might be useful. So our approach is to go and build the functionality that is being used by the BI tool. Not necessarily to hit a standard checkbox just for the sake of it, as you can see, as is actually greenfield implementation. And we're not going to just go from, let's go do 92, then let's do 99, then let's do 2003. We'll see 92, we have the overwhelming majority of that standard, the key piece that you actually could use for analytics. It is not yet there in Impala, and it's definitely part of the roadmap, is correlated subtools, and that'll be added in shortly. But once that's done, the rest of the SQL 92 standard is a lot less meaningful. After that, and actually we already started work on things from the 2003 standard, such as rank and aggregates over partition window functions, as they're traditionally called. And there's also things from the 99 standard in terms of the analytics functions, such as rollup, cube, and so on and so forth, that will also be added in. But our goal is not then to go and hit a standard just to say that we've completed a standard, but our goal is to go and hit the requirements and functionality across the standard in the order that they're most prevalently used. And ultimately the goal is that you as an end user of a traditional BI tool or a new BI tool do not have to think about how do I go and do this for this engine versus this other engine, that all the functionality you expect just works out of the box.
So Dustin's answer is we're not that concerned about SQL standard compliance for its own sake.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, so I think what's interesting here is the first fact to point out, right, is going from greenfield to Teradata to Exadata, each of those steps is going to take you 1 year to do as an enterprise, right? It's while there is a SQL standard, they're not exactly the same. That's true. At the same time, there's a level of SQL compliance, right? And I think being able to, for example, run the PPCA standard as a basis, which is something that's out there. I mean, that should be pretty easy to accomplish because you can see those queries, right? It's not like saying, okay, what is my retailer or financial services customer running, and they have 1,000 hours and they're running all their crazy queries. I can't necessarily anticipate that, but I can certainly anticipate the CPCA standard. And if I can't run those queries, then obviously I'm not at the level of compliance that customers expect to be at. So I think we do need to aim to be very, very a lot closer to the standard than what HighScale can provide today or what Impala can provide at that time.
I think someone hit it on the head. There is an anti-standard, but every database has its own standard, and it takes a significant amount of time to code an application from there to there. It was true 10 years ago when you tried to go from Sybase to Oracle. It is still true, and it will still be true 5 years from now when you try to take an application from Cloudera to Impala onto, say,
Alan?
All right, so this might be the only time you get to hear me say this tonight, but I definitely agree with Dustin. You shouldn't just take the standard for the sake of the standard. We're going out there, we're hearing what people want, we're adding those things in, and when we do that, we're working really hard to make sure they're ANSI compliant, right? We did just add the windowing functions as an example to Hive that came out in Hive 11. We made very sure those met the appropriate standards in SQL. And Hive, of course, has some technical debt in that term, in that area, as far as going back and fixing things like the data type model and those kind of things, which is also ongoing work on Hive. So I totally agree. It's not about making everything SQL compliant, and I don't think we're ever going to check that box because we do everything you could think of to do in any of the SQL things. I don't think there's any meaning in that. But what there is meaning is making sure when you tell people, hey, you can do rollup or you can do rank or whatever, it works the way they think it's going to work.
Okay, so I'm going to move on. But for those of you young people who don't know about SQL, this is known as the SQL Standard Tab Band. All right. The next question, and we should go hit these quickly because I know Ravi wants to get